the journey of being a journalist and knowing everybody and everybody loving you, and then turning it into seeking health. Can you give us a synopsis on that?
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. Like I was always curious, so curious, still am, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm in Nashville now anyway for a yoga retreat because I'm always just wanting to learn more and like understand more, right? Like who are we and what can we do and what's out there? So I was a journalist and I, consider myself still a journalist, but just on my own terms. But I was a TV journalist, and in my own life, I was like going and seeing shamans to learn about plant medicines. I was getting stem cell injections. I was trying biohacking. Like I was doing everything, but it was my personal life. And then I'd go and like report on whatever they wanted me to report on. Right. And eventually I was like, I can't keep having a foot in two worlds. Like this just doesn't, it's like, I'm covering tornadoes and hurricanes and Dancing with the Stars or whatever else. And then I'm like out here in the jungle drinking this like brew, right? So I'm like, I want this to be my life. How can I make this my life full time? And it was around that time that I started to meet like different healers from different backgrounds. And they'd say, you're a healer, right? And I'd be like, no, I'm a journalist. Like I was so stubborn. I'm like, no, I'm a journalist. And then eventually I was like, well, let me just try, So I started to learn from different people. And I started to really make it my own. And so I would only work with like my friends, my family, but little by little, they'd be like, can you work with so-and-so? Can you work with so-and-so? So after a while, I realized I was like booking up for months in advance. Wow. And so I left news and just like fully pursued just working with people one-on-one, kind of like you do, but mine's all remote. Like it's all energy work. It's all over Zoom. And then, building content around the things that I do. So if I go and get stem cells now, I'm like showing people the process and what it's for. And I'll interview the doctors. If I'm talking about plant medicine, I'll show people my personal journey from beginning to end, or a family member and what they went through. So yeah, I mean, there's like so much to explore in this world that I didn't want to be limited to just what I was being assigned on TV.
I think it's really great when you said my schedule filled up and it was like months in advance. And I think that the direction that you're supposed to go into usually finds you. And so you start to see things starting to develop. When you started to get into, and I'm not trying to divert from your background, but I'm saying like with the stem cells, when you started to go into stem cells and like plant medicine, what are some of the biggest things like that you knew you could help your clients with, like with stem cells? What are the main attractions you love about stem cells? Because that's a big part of your bio. Like, what do you love about stem cells and how can it help?
I used to really be into supplements, and I would take so many supplements. Closet full of supplements.
You had the whole pantry filled up.
I like sometimes I'd have to take it. I'm like, okay, these 20 now, these 10 later, these 15, because I couldn't take it all at once. Yeah. And I got stem cell injections. Yeah. And noticed maybe after like the second time I did it that I just naturally just stopped taking supplements. Even now, I don't really supplement. I take everything intuitively, right? Like I'll take, like we just talked about neem before the podcast started, and I'll take like neem leaves. Like I'm going to start trying that now. I'll try things. I'll incorporate it into my food or into my life, but I don't just like take supplements. I won't take like pills unless I need it intuitively. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling something. Let me take some vitamin C and oregano oil. Let me take, whatever it is. But I don't, unless it's like something that I specifically want to work on, I don't just take supplements now. And I notice I feel healthier than I ever have before. My skin, people are always like asking about my skin.
Oh, it's great.
Like,
seriously.
Right? Like all these things. Thank you. I mean, I don't only say it for me. I say like it's the power of like the stem cells and living foods. Honestly, I would say the two biggest things: eating living live food, not processed, not dead food, not frozen food, just living food, like sprouts, for example, right? We talked actually about this before.
Yes.
I got into it like 6 months ago, and I'm like, I can't believe I wasn't doing this before. Yeah. My whole life has changed just from eating sprouts, like not as a garnish, but like eating a full meal of sprouts.
Oh my goodness.
Like 6 different kinds, and I grow them myself now. I mean, like that and stem cells. So if you want to get like specific, there's like, and I don't actually, has nothing to do with my clients. Like with my clients, it's all energy work. But sometimes I'll suggest it. And it's really more for like my podcast and my YouTube channel where I create content that helps people, like sort of like you do. That's where I'll talk about the stem cells. Yeah. But like for me specifically, I've had like my joints injected, my knees, my shoulders, my penis, my face.
Hey,
My face. I got an IV. I got my gums.
Yeah.
Hairline. Like I've had everything basically injected. And then like each one of those things, it's something different. Like my gums, I just started to notice. They say give it 6 months. And it's true. Like in your face, organs, like joints, you start to notice it after 6 months.
Yes.
Like really notice it. Inflammation immediately gone. Immediately. But like noticing a real strong difference, like growth, it's about like 6 months to start seeing that. But the gums was like within like 2 weeks, I could start seeing it wrap around my teeth.
Oh, I got to do that. I got to do it. And we got to exchange information about the individuals, because we all have a friend, and you may know him, Ben Greenfield. He does biohacking, and he went to a practitioner in Mexico that did his, and he was talking to me about like what you just stated, like not having to take as many supplements. And you guys are in good shape. Courtney, my co-host, she does a lot of stem cells, and she was telling me the other day she was looking great. Her skin was getting better. I said, "Hey, what's going on? It looks great. I'm glad. Like stress is low." But she said the same thing you did, brother. She said, "I'm doing the stem cells, and I felt intuitively that I didn't need all these supplements," because I always tease her and I always say, "Hey, you don't need 15 pills in the day." And she always goes, more is better. Like, no, not really, not this time.
Right.
But it's like the energy that your body could use from stem cell actually creating energy. And so Ben put me through a workout, and man, I was like, by like 45 minutes, I was like, I'm going to feel this for the next 3 weeks. and then he says, and he wasn't braggadocious. He was just saying, he goes, that thing we just did. And, I was like, yeah, the workout.
It's a great impression, by the way.
He was like,
perfect.
He goes, yeah, he says, that feels like I just did a 5-minute workout. And I could tell, because he'll go 20, 30 minutes on a machine. And I love the fact that when you can get it inject in any place. So when your clients are there, when you're doing that, does it lead into the energy work? Because I want to talk about the virtual too. I don't want to leave anything out. This is such a good information, but how do you meld them together? Or do you just see like, no, this is the opportunity for me to talk to them about their emotional healing? How's it?
If I'm working with somebody, it's all about, well, not just emotions, like, and we can even do one together if you want, like live, but it'll be specifically emotions, and I'll look into, and sometimes it sounds weird, but for someone who works in Chinese medicine, probably not so much, but like certain Chinese meridians, like meridians in the body, or chakras, or even specific organs and mental beliefs. And I'll literally tell them what belief was created, what year it was created, and they'll always map, not always, but most of the time they know exactly what it was. Like I'll say, you feel abandonment, I'm not good enough, and vulnerability when you were 12. What happened? And they're like, oh, my parents got a divorce when I was 12. I thought it was my fault, Like, okay, so let's clear that. That's what's causing your eye issues right now. Like, it's so interesting how it works. But we literally just use magnets to clear whatever that block is. And the crazy thing is, well, I don't think it's crazy now that I've seen it so much and I've been doing it for so many years, and I see the like miraculous results, but they're not even in the room with me. So I'm clearing it on myself for them.
Wow.
And it's cleared.
Because he just read me, because that's what he was talking about. 12 years old. He was like, that's.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You
it's
picked
so
up.
Funny. Every time I use an example, it's like
you picked up on it, like already. Like when you cleared on yourself, like because there are certain even techniques in Chinese medicine. They'll call them like Tong Ren. They'll talk about like the transposition of like energy fields. And is that how, like, when you or with somebody and you start to feel the energy, like the impression that it puts on your body, you're like, oh, they're sending that vibration out. Is that how you would say that?
I think that's what it is. Like, I don't really like, I wish I was more like intellectual, because it's hard for me to explain things,
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, I'm in the same group. Like,
I'm just like learning it as I go. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I feel this. I'll say something. They're always telling me. Like one time I was like, I think you have like a carpet cleaner in allergy or something. And she's like, that's so crazy. She's like, my husband, I was telling him yesterday, because he got these carpet cleaners at the house, and I told him it was bothering me. And I'm like, yeah, they're like something. So I don't know. It's just like a feeling, it's an impression.
See, that.
But then I will say, I'm not like that accurate, where I'm not like psychic or anything. So I can't just like tell somebody. So I'll muscle test everything. And that I learned from Dr. Bradley Nelson.
Yeah.
From Emotion Code. So he taught me like muscle test everything.
Yeah.
Like I ask and you probably do this, because chiropractors do this all the time too.
Yep.
Where they'll muscle test, or like they'll put like certain foods to your chest and like hold your hand and see if it goes weak or strong, right?
Yep.
So like variations of this, but I muscle test everything. So as I'm asking, even if I know for sure what I'm about to find, I'll be like, and I'm like, okay, is it a throat chakra? Yeah, it's throat chakra. Like if they're telling me they can't speak or they're having issues with their expression,
we got to talk about that.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, like when you muscle test everything, I do quite a bit of muscle testing at the office. I think it was David Hawkins was talking about his scale of
power versus force.
And it talks about like a scale of like consciousness in the sense that how much does a particular event or a person, a place or thing pull on your energetic field. And I remember some of my friends would literally, I thought was very, very interesting. And you probably see this too. When you muscle test something, they would go to a restaurant or something and they weren't acting unusual. I think it's normal to me.
Yeah.
And they'd be like on that, and they go, well, how much would that pull me up to? Like 10, 20, 30, 40. And they would go, nope. Yes. And people are looking at them. Like, to me, it's normal. Like, I'm just like, this is great. Like I can eat with my friends who do healthy stuff. And I think that when you have that, that ability, to feel the energetic fields of other individuals. Like, for instance, you're saying, like, when you say carpet cleaner, do you find like those impressions that you feel and you're like, the person like, oh my goodness, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going through. Did that start when you were young, or I want to know your like
when I was young, it was like sensitivity. That's what it was. So it was like, I didn't know why, but I'd be really like uncomfortable around certain people or really happy with certain people, feel safe with certain people, like we all do. Yeah. But it was like a hyper sensitivity, and it still is, right? But like I was just always hyper sensitive. And my mom would always tell me, she'd be like, you're too sensitive, you know? Yeah. Like you need it. And cause she didn't understand. She saw it as like a weakness. Whereas I think it's like a strength, you know? Because it's like, I immediately, there's been times I walk into a room even now and I'm like, even if it's like a birthday party or something, and I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. And I'll literally just leave. I'll leave the gift and I'll walk out. I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. And I don't need to explain it to anybody either. Like, that's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to explain it. I don't want to be here. So I'm not going to be,
that must have made you a really good journalist too, because the people around you could probably pick up on the vibe.
Sure. And you know what? Like, they would always cry in my interviews. I would say that, or they'll be like, oh, I was really nervous to do this, but like, thank you. And like, they'd hug me. And, you have to realize I'm doing stories with, it wasn't always like Jennifer Lopez. It'd be like, and it was sometimes it was like massive A-listers. Yeah. And other times it'd be like somebody who's just lost their home in a tornado, or somebody who like is a local hero because they did something, like whatever it is. Like, they're not TV people, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they also just went through something. But like, I'd always, I think, just like talk to them, let them know that like, I actually really just care about you. And I like, forget the cameras. I'm not even worried about that right now. If we get our shot, great. If we don't, I'm okay with that too. Like, are you okay? Like, it was like things like that. And, so even like noticing, I think in those stories, I'd always look for, like, you'd see, like, let's say a mass shooting, if I was covering that, you see like the horror of what that did, but then you also see the whole community coming together and donating blood and like, giving food and making sure everybody's okay. Like, that's what I always focused on. I'd always be like, wow, look how beautiful like love is. And I'm from LA and I'm from a big city, and it's very easy if you're from LA or New York to be like, oh, like the, flyover states. Yeah. And like, it's so like the way people talk about them is just like, oh, well, I don't know, those people in Mississippi, Oh yeah. But when you're like a journalist and you're well, at least I'll speak for myself. When I was a journalist and meeting people, I just saw like, we're all the same. We all want the same things. Yeah. We're all looking for the same thing. And it's just like, when you get caught up in whether it's media or politics or whatever it is, you forget, because you just got roped into this whole like them, us, and it doesn't exist. It's not even real. It's all made up. It's based on where you live. These beliefs got created because of the people you're around, the system that you got. But it's like, it's not real.
I gotta go. That's one of those conversations. Like, I wish we even like, you can go further. It could be like a whole 2 or 3 hours, because when we talked about like you're being in certain areas and you're helping people and those individuals, and it's like you say the flyover states. Okay, so you're very sensitive with doing muscle testing, and you got into the world of like energy healing. And I got so many questions. I hope I give it. I hope I go. It'll flow through. But when you started to learn different avenues, and you started to get more, I say clients and friends, they see your heart. And as you started to shift from journalism, do you feel like definitely like the natural journalistic nature of who you are allows your biocomputer, I'm not trying to be fancy, internally to be able to scan certain areas around the body. Like you were talking about meridians, you were talking about chakras, you're talking about those areas of the body. And I remember you told me before we started, you're like, well, I don't know all the things about everything. And I don't either. I'm the same boat, brother. But do you find that you have more of an adeptness to understand or pick up on stuff than most people do? You have to, right? Is that
probably more than like the average person?
Yeah.
You know, but I don't think more than like the spiritually, like the person like really doing the work, you know?
Yeah.
Because it gets built. So
you get stronger at it, like you build the muscle, right?
Yeah. And then I've noticed, not just with myself, but with documentary, like little projects that I've done on YouTube, where like you mentioned the blindfold reading, like we would literally blindfold people, even blind people, by the way, fully legally blind. We take them through this process, and I don't do it anymore, but I want to get back into it. I stopped in 2020 during the pandemic and everything shut down. So I stopped doing these retreats, but there was like a moment where I realized if you doubt or if you don't think you can do it, it goes away. And then you have to like retrain and do it. Like you always need to be positive and happy. So like when we're training somebody, we'd have them blindfolded and we, hold up, like, let's say this green book. And I'd be like, what color is the book? And they'd be like, blue. And we'd be like, cool, good. What else do you see? Keep trying. Like, what else? Like, we never say no. You never are like, no, it's not right. Oh, you didn't get it. Like never. It's always like, good. What else? Gold. Okay, cool. Yeah, there's gold there for sure. What else? Green. Yeah, you got it. Woo. And like constant, like celebrate. Cause then you need that encouragement,
Yes.
How many times as kids, you're like, oh, I have an imaginary friend or I have this or whatever. We're like, shut up. Oh, stop it. Like you're making things up. You're so like such a troublemaker or whatever. Yep. We don't go, oh yeah. What does the friend look like? Oh, cool. Like helping them express their imagination and explore and know that there's something there.
There has to be, because I'm with you. When you and me like could be buddies. I'm serious, because when you talked about you're too sensitive, you know what and I love them, and I'm not saying this out of harshness to my brother, my sister, but they used to always tell me that you're too sensitive, Chris. Because I would watch, there was this one Hallmark episode, and I'm not making a lot of this story. It talked about an older gentleman who had some mental handicaps. And I remember they used to play it every year. I lived in Topeka, Kansas when I was a kid. I used to cry internally so badly for that guy because I felt so bad for him. And then they weren't trying to be mean. They're like, why do you keep crying all the time? It's so, what's funny is that I shouldn't have, but over the years, I kind of walled that part off because I didn't want my brother and sister to disapprove of me. But I think I let myself, thankfully, you talk about like energetics, like, you walk into a room, I can tell, like when you see somebody, you're not trying to say, I know exactly what's going on with your world, but you go, their heart's heavy and they may have something like that going on.